Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. And, gentlemen, we have a special guest. Someone's near and dear to my heart, one of our advisors at The Powerful Man, Chris Loch. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, everybody.
So, guys, we have an interesting episode for you. So I want you guys to put down what you're doing. You know, if you're on the treadmill, keep going. But I want you to focus and have 100% attention here because Chris wanted to come on and share his story with you guys so you can get some relevancy here, because Chris is one of those guys, we said this before we hit record, Chris is one of those guys that's always calm, cool, collected. And, you know, I always have a great time chatting with him. I just got done with a grueling race, pushing himself as always. And Chris dedicates his time each and every day to helping men, getting on the calls and helping the men who are struggling in their marriages and their relationships and being there for them. So, Chris, I want to honor you for all that you do for the Powerful Man movement and all of us internally within the movement.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, it's really my pleasure to be involved with this work and with this movement. My story is I didn't find the powerful man in time, and my marriage failed. And so now part of my just mission in life's work is to help other guys avoid that mistake, because it's painful. And I just had no idea how hard it would be, how expensive it would be, the toll on my kids. So that's what we're going to talk about today, in hopes that those of you listening, you know, if you're sitting on the fence, if you think maybe you got more time to figure it out, maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I thought I had more time until I didn't.
Yeah, it's a common story, right, Chris? We hear this so much from guys coming into the program and guys that just didn't have enough time. Let's rewind the tape a little bit, if we can here, and take us back to when you thought you had more time. Kind of tell us your story and kind of who you are and what got you to this point, if you would.
Yeah, so what I'm about to share is based on things I learned after my marriage ended and trying to figure out what happened. So I sound like I have a lot of insight into what was going on, but I didn't at the time. I just knew I grew up with an anger problem. Now I realize it was kind of a self-defense mechanism from my parents' divorce. And so, you know, I brought that with me into other relationships, including my marriage. And I don't know what I thought. You know, you just think you're going to get married or you're going to become an adult, and these problems that you had will just, I don't know, I'll just be wise. I'll be married. I'll be a man. But that is not the case. They come with you. And then I thought the same thing when our kids came. You know, my son would be born. They'd put a crown on my head. I'd be wise. I'd know what to do. My mistakes and shortcomings would be gone. Not the case. Brought it into my parenting. And over the years, my anger severed the emotional connection with my wife. And just now I'm learning, you know, after the divorce, the effect it had on my kids. So how this showed up in the marriage was eventually it was where she just didn't seem interested in me. She was cold. She was more interested in her phone. She didn't want to go to bed when I went to bed. Just generally avoiding me in a coldness. And before that, it was, you know, arguing. But after you reach a certain point, it's like you argue because you care, right? And then the arguing even stopped, and it was just this coldness. And it was the perfect situation for the other man to appear. And that's what happened here. And so, I don't know, I just thought I had more time. I thought I was working on these things. Now it's like a question mark in my voice, right? But when he showed up, it was over in her mind. And so I did everything I could to try and save it. I tried to fix all the things she told me were wrong, like the anger and being overweight and, you know, just a myriad of things that she said was why she wasn't attracted to me. Now, having gone through the activation method myself, I realize that it was the loss of the emotional connection. Because if that's there, it doesn't matter if you've got a few extra pounds or, how much money you make or those types of things, right? Because that emotional connection is the most important thing to women. They crave it. They need it to live. And if you're not providing it, at least in my case, she died inside. And when this other guy appeared and he provided that, she came to life, and I was garbage, like almost overnight.
So Chris, when you were saying earlier, and I resonate with your story, by the way, when you were saying earlier that, hey, I thought I was doing the right things and working on myself, what were those things that you were doing?
I was working on it, but not with an intensity as I started the day she walked in and said, I need you to know something, and told me about him. So, we'd have a big fight. She'd put her foot down. There'd be some kind of ultimatum. I'd buy a bunch of books about anger management. Maybe I'd go to a session with the therapist. And then I put all these other things in front of that seemed important, right? So I don't know, stupid shit. Now that I look back, it's like mowing the lawn, and we had a yard with a bunch of trees, and like, well, someone's got to rake these leaves, right? Someone's got to shovel the snow. Somebody's got to do this or that around here. And so I'll get to that. I'll get to it. And if I could go back and do it, I would just say, I don't care if the leaves rot on my lawn. I'll hire some neighborhood kid. I've got to fix this. I just didn't realize the severity. I thought I had more time. I never dreamed the other guy would show up. We were a go to church every Sunday kind of family, and we would go to Sunday school and have lessons on the importance of the family and things like that. So I never dreamed that could happen. So really, I look back, I was playing so small. I wasn't taking it seriously. I didn't realize what would happen. Yeah, if I could go back, I just would have made it such a higher priority above everything. I looked at marriage retreats and and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money. We don't have that money. Well, guess what? As we get into this, I'll share with you how much money the divorce was. And I feel like, talking to other guys, I got off easy, but I could have paid for, 30 marriage retreats with what I spent in the divorce.
And that's a common thing we think about as guys, right? We're looking at, I relate to the things I got to do, right? We're checklist guys. We get stuff done. And especially as alphas and as leaders, we're out there, got to get the leaves raked, the snow, and we're supposed to squirrel away money for retirement. I'm working hard. So, paying for a marriage retreat or going to some beach somewhere, or even if it's just down the street or a class, I don't want to spend, 10 grand on something. That's ridiculous. We'll just push through, and I'm going to get that new audiobook that's a bestseller on Amazon. And I'm going to listen to that as I go for a walk and clear my head. And that's going to be great tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah, I just thought I had a lot more tomorrows. And it's so easy to just not realize when you're in that mode, right? You're running your business. You're trying to be a good dad. You're doing stuff in the community. You don't realize days, weeks, months, years have passed, and you haven't changed. You're not really doing things differently. Maybe slightly, but not enough to make a profound difference. And if I could have gone back, man, I would have told the stuff I was doing in the community, sorry, I got to put this on pause. My marriage comes first. I don't give a crap if the snow sits there, whatever. It's put money in retirement. What for? If I don't change things, I'm going to hand over my retirement. So who cares? I just didn't make it urgent. And so it failed.
As happens to a lot of us men as we look at it, right? Well, let's talk about those costs. You mentioned it, a lot of guys hear about it, they think about it, but it's also a distant thing, the cost of marriage. if you could speak to that, just so the other guys can hear it, I'd love to hear what the costs are all around, the holistic costs.
Yeah, so I started actually making a list here, and right off the bat, to protect the interest of my children, a $5,000 retainer to the divorce attorney, and then getting a small place to live just so I could have my kids. First and last month's rent is $3,000, so I'm out $8,000 right out of the gate, but I don't even have like furniture for this place yet, right? So you don't want dad's house to be like a hobo village where people are just on sleeping bags on the floor. So beds, desks to do homework, dressers, kitchen table, couches, TV, Nintendo Switch, bikes. I don't even know how much I spent just getting the place outfitted to be civilized. And now looking back again, I just realized, like, how stupid was this, that I said I didn't have the money to take care of this, but then when it was forced on me, I magically found it, right? It's amazing how fast that retainer with the divorce attorney, how fast you burn through that. It just seemed like every few weeks they were hitting me up for another couple thousand. And we solved ours pretty quick. We ended up in one session of mediation and got it done in a day. I don't think that's normal. I talked to a guy a couple of days ago. He's coming up to the end of his divorce, and just the legal fees alone were like $80,000. So mine was probably, when it was all said and done, more like around $8,000 to $10,000. Another thing was just the loss of income. When everything you know and love is gone, everything familiar, your wife, your home, you're not seeing your kids like you used to, and when you did, they're just shell-shocked of what's going on. For about 6 months, my income was half. Like, I was just scraping by because I just couldn't focus. I couldn't think. I wasn't motivated. It was just like, what am I working for? Everything I cared about just disappeared. What do I do this? What am I doing this for? And just having to get up every day and make myself do the minimum was just a chore. Like, the mental stress was just crushing. I'd never experienced anything like that. And then in the divorce, I gave up about $40,000 in home equity as one of the bartering chips, just trying to minimize my child support amount and get more time with my kids and things like that. I think I got off pretty easy on the child support, honestly. My ex-wife has her own income, and so I wasn't having to like pay for her whole life. So no alimony and only about $250 a month in child support. But again, that is super rare. I know guys thousands. So part of what I did was just give her that home equity to make that amount be lower. And then not seeing my kids half the time. I mean, it's weird. It's weird. Still, it's been a while, but half the nights I go to bed, my kids aren't under my roof. And they're with her. And the like latest thing that's happening is she's turning them against me. I'm being demonized. And I'm trying to cop to the mistakes that I made with the anger and make things right. But she's telling them he'll never change. He can't change. And so now there's this whole dynamic of like, they don't even want to come to my house. I can barely even get in front of them to make that apology and to try to make things right. Just, I don't know. It's like when they're not around, part of you is missing. It's like if half the time you were missing your left arm or some other appendage, it's just not there. And I don't know that that'll ever get normal. So another cost is just the loss of trust with my kids. You know, they depended on me to be the man and to provide a safe, stable childhood for them. And I didn't do that. And so now with what's going on, we're probably looking at some therapy or even mediation again with their mom to try to just sort all this out. And how do we start the healing process and unravel and untangle all of this? And, in doing that, to heal the wound, you got to open up the wound, right, and wash it out. And that's painful. So, we're looking at some therapy. So even though a lot of this is in the past, it's not just like a clean break and it's done, right? It's like lasting effects. And honestly, I mean, I'm going to do my best to do this better than my parents, but I don't know all the ways this will follow them into their adulthood and into their marriages and into the relationship with their kids, because that is what happened to me. I hope I do it better, but I don't know. So my message for guys out there listening really is, if you've got a chance to fix things in your marriage and save your family, if you're saying, I can't afford this or that, I've got a big project, in a couple months, I've got a lot going on in the new year, or, whatever your excuse is, man, you may not get to the new year. You may not have a chance. You just don't know. A lot of times, what I've learned talking from so many men is, by the time the woman tells you like she's done, she's thought about it a long time. A lot of times she's made plans, she's saved money, she's talked to attorneys, and like, you're the last one to know, and it's too late. So just don't be me. Take care of this while you still can, and make it the number one priority in your life above everything. You can make money back, the stupid yard will be there, just whatever it takes. Even if you've got to sell your boat or your whatever toys you got, four-wheelers, like, you can get that stuff back. It's really hard to get back your kids after this, and certainly if you don't fix it, you won't get your wife back. So yeah, that's my advice for anyone listening out there.
Wow, man. I mean, it's a testament to you that you asked to be on here to share your story with the guys and what you do today. Fast forward, you went through the activation method, played full out, and are continuing to play full out. And you decide just to take a stand for men that aren't, we're like you were and I was, right? Guys that aren't taking a stand for themselves, not because they're scared to, it's just because we didn't know. We just don't.
Who's going to teach you? Like, your parents who got divorced? This isn't taught anywhere. I spent umpteenth hours learning advanced algebra and geometry in school, but like, nobody taught me how some simple communication things. Nobody taught me, what do you do with that anger? What's the root cause of it? Like, all these things that are they're way more important than all the math you learned in school that you've never used. So you've got to learn it somewhere. And the way life is arranged right now, it's not going to find you. You've got to be proactive, and you've got to go find it and do the work, because just going on default, it ain't going to fix it.
No, it's not.
One thing I don't think you've touched on, Chris, that I think it'd be relevant. Just remind me, when was it that you were handed the divorce papers?
So it was October of 2 years ago that I found out about the other guy. And then I was in the house till after Christmas, which was January. And then the divorce didn't actually start until like almost a year later. So it's kind of a complicated story.
And obviously since then you have done a lot of work on yourself and put yourself in a great position to find the woman of your dreams, who also but has been through a divorce. And I'm pretty sure she handed the divorce papers to her then husband at a similar time. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure as I spoke to you about Divorce Day one time, or I think you listened to the podcast on Divorce Day, you had a bit of a light bulb moment, didn't you? You was like, holy crap, that's when it happened for me. That's when it happened for Ashley, your wife. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so it was the same time of year, just different years. So, I was asked to leave the house, I think it was like January 9th, because that is just, it's like the woman thinks like, okay, well, let's just let this be the last Christmas. Let's do it for the kids and get them through. And that's what we were thinking. And then, January 9th, take down the Christmas stuff, and then out I went. And then the same thing for Ashley. She had a big like ultimatum with her now ex-husband in January, and after a month he hadn't really changed what he was doing. So in February she served him divorce papers. So this time of year that we're in right now is super critical, because in the holidays you spend a lot of time together. And if you're thinking, okay, if I don't have the stress of work because I took time off, and we're all together in the house, and we have all these nice things, and we have, it's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, right? So if I feel like crap and it's the most time of the wonderful year, I feel like crap with you, if this is as good as it could ever get, then like I'm done. Yeah. So if you're watching this and it's shaky and it is, this is the time to step into action, so that a month and a half from now at Christmas, your wife isn't wondering, isn't thinking, I got to get out of this because it's the most wonderful time of the year and it sucks with him. Now is the time to sink your teeth in to this work and make it happen and make the changes.
Yeah, I think you make a huge point here, right? It's as guys, it's almost like we're pre-programmed. And I come from a divorced family too, Chris. But just in general, as guys, we want to solve the problems, but there's also always tomorrow to do the work on our relationship. And the problem with that was a lot of them, but one of them is we future cast our change, right? We future cast. I'm listening to this audiobook from Brene Brown on, being vulnerable. So therefore I'm going to be vulnerable. We future cast how we're going to be into the present moment. Yet we haven't made the change. And as soon as we're done with that audiobook, what do we do, guys? If we finish it, we go on to the next one. We go on to the next one. We go on to the next one. And we're driving our car. And then months have gone by. We've made micro changes here or there. Maybe we started diet or work out. Maybe we stopped. But we haven't done the deep inner work to get to the root cause of what's going on. Right? At least that was for me, Chris, I was like you, I was the man in the community. I was running multiple companies. I had all these things going on. Everything was amazing until I got home. And I thought, okay, I'll just keep working on these things slowly but surely. And it's just going to get better later. It's going to get better later. Like maybe it's not tomorrow, but next week or, by the end of the month for certainly. But that tomorrow, it's like that whole idea of go point to someday on your calendar. Right? Go point to tomorrow on your calendar. It doesn't exist. It's not an actual date on your calendar, right? It doesn't change. And for me anyway, I wasn't working on the fundamental root part. And I started transference almost, and start blaming my wife for the things that she wasn't doing. And that's where my focus started to come. Well, yeah, I've got anger issues, sure, but what about you? What about these things that you're doing? Right? And you start pointing those fingers and focusing, and you lose sight of what really matters to you. The relationships, the kids.
The truth is, if you knew how to fix this, you would have fixed it by now, but you don't. It's like if I walked into, it's crazy. If I walked into surgery, brain surgery, and like, I halfway listened to some audiobooks at 2x speed and watched some YouTube videos. And now I'm going to do some other guy's super complicated job. That you would laugh at that, right? But that's what it's like thinking you know how to fix this by reading a couple books and watching a few YouTube videos. Even if you knew what to do, even if you had like a blueprint or a system to like systematically walk you through, you've got blind spots. I guarantee you are lying to yourself about a ton of things right now. And without working with someone who's helped a lot of men through this process, who can call you on your BS, you're just not going to know. They're just blind spots. And your brain's weird. It does weird things to protect you. When you actually come to terms with the things you've done that have hurt your wife, it sucks. It's painful. Your caveman brain protects you from that by saying, well, of course you got angry because she's late to everything. I mean, wouldn't you be pissed off if you were late to everything? And of course you're this because she's this. And it's always putting up shields and deflecting things so you don't have to feel pain. And I'm sorry to tell you this, guys, you're going to have to walk through some hard stuff. It's fire, but this is the deal. You have 3 paths here in front of you. Number 1, you figure this out and you walk through the fire and you save the marriage and you live happily ever after. Number 2, you figure this out after you're divorced and there's collateral damage on your kids. You don't stay married. Maybe you'll find somebody great because you fixed your problems, but your kids will never be the same. And then option number 3 is you don't figure it out, you get divorced and you still don't figure it out and you repeat the mistake. Those are the 3 choices. The obvious smart one is to take care of this now because it's going to follow you. You might think, well, of course this and that because she does this and she does this. It's going to follow you because wherever you go, there you are.
And it's so true, right? You know, we talk about it, the ego or the caveman brain. It's hiding these things from us. And we hear it all the time, Chris, Tim, you know, it's, well, you don't understand. My relationships, it's a little complicated. We always hear that. It's complicated. Like,
or
oh, let me get.
He needs to change. She doesn't understand.
Let me guess how complicated it is, guys. You know, we can pretty much put this into a formula at this point, exactly what's going on in the relationship. Now, there's subtleties in every relationship. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying your wife or your partner is justified or right for anything they're doing, but you get to clean up your side of the street first, right? Before, you know, if you live in a tract home like I grew up in anyway, you know, there's neighborhoods around you. You don't walk outside and point, hey, that neighbor's got trash in their yard when you got a car up on blocks and trash strewn all over yours. You clean your side of the street first before you do anything else. And that's number 1. And like you said, Chris, what are you going to do? You have 3 options here, guys. What are you going to do? Men, if you're listening to this, right? You're driving, what have you, I am going to implore you, to encourage you to just short of demand you. You got to go back and watch the video of this. So go to thepowerfulman.com, click on podcast. You'll find places where you can actually watch the video of this. So you can see this conversation happening. Because Chris's story is not unusual, right? Chris's story is only unusual because Chris took action. That's the only thing that makes Chris's story unusual is he said, no more, right? I am not going to repeat this pattern. We talk to guys all the time that are on their 3rd marriage, same problems as the 2nd and 1st. And what did Chris say? Guess what? The only thing that's consistent is you're there, right? Go back and watch this so you can really get the understanding of this. You know, I can relate so much to what you say, Chris, so much. Our stories are a little bit different, but the ideas, the premises are still there. And I know a lot of the men can too.
One other thing, Chris, and maybe you've said it all, right? But what about the guy that's maybe listening to this that's had a call with you? Because obviously, again, just to remind the guys, Chris is one of the advisors on the team. If you're interested in going into the activation method, you'll speak to one of the other advisors first. If they think that we could help you, then you'll get passed through to Chris, who will really shed some insight on your situation. At which point, you know, you may or may not be invited into the activation method. So, Chris, I mean, what if there's somebody out there listening? Maybe they've either had a call with you and maybe not taken action, or they're even thinking about taking a call and haven't booked it, or maybe even they were booked in to speak with you and didn't show up for whatever reason. Is there anything you'd like to say to those guys in particular?
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe this is your first marriage. Maybe it's your second, maybe it's your third. We've worked with hundreds of men. So things you're scratching your head, trying to figure out, you're unsure, just don't even worry about if like the program's right for you. Just the chance to talk to somebody who's seen these patterns play out over and over and over and can provide some insights for you is priceless, honestly. So maybe our program will help you. Maybe, maybe it's not a fit, but I'd love the chance just to get on the phone with you, hear your story, share the insights I've learned going through this process myself, and then also going through the activation method and just being surrounded in this. I mean, every day I talk to several men and I see these patterns and these stories play out over and over again. So you're not alone. So that's the other message is, if you do decide to work with us, there's a whole team ready to surround you and help you figure this out. You don't have to bang your head on the wall anymore and just feel lonely, like you're the only guy who doesn't have this figured out. We got your back.
Great advice.
And one of the things I love about what, again, saying about you, Chris, is you're so authentic. It's just you. And you're doing this because you care. And you don't want men to be sitting here telling your story, right? And I also gotta say there's another side to your story, right? There's a side full of joy and smiles as you've come out the other side of this, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, an overused analogy, but one that I see in you is, guys watching this, and I just want to, give Chris some love here, is we have a channel where all the coaches and a lot of the team are on. And then Chris just does this gnarly event with a woman he loves, having so much fun, taking on the joy of things that he used to put off, right? You're talking about fitness. You just took on a gnarly challenge, rucking around and being duct tape and all kinds of, I won't get into the details of all the things that were involved. It sounds like To Catch a Predator almost when you look at that list of items, but you're living the dream, right? There's collateral damage, as you said, and you were working on cleaning those up. As you work on yourself, those hopefully get to be cleaned up and you get to forge a different direction. You get to showcase to your kids who are always watching, right? And your kids will know the difference. Your kids will grow up older. Now, hopefully they learn quicker than not, but your actions, gentlemen, show much more than your words. How you actually step up, the fact that you are making a change and doing something for those you love by working on yourself. Do it for yourself first, but also remember a lot of the reasons that we work late nights. We get up early in the morning to do these things. We rake the leaves, right? Because we want to give to our families. We want to provide to our families. And the reality is all they want is you, the best version of you. That's what they want. So instead of working on raking the leaves, working on the family budget and all those things, work on yourself, right? Give them the best you. That's all your kids want, guys. I have 2 kids. That's all they want. They follow me around. They mimic what I do, right? That's all they want. And if not now, when? If not now, when? That's something that chimes in my head all the time. If not now, when? There is no tomorrow, so stop waiting. And Chris, it's always awesome. I mean, your story's tear-jerking, but to me, your story is so inspirational because you've stepped into being an advisor to be a beacon of light for the men that come through and to talk to them and share with them. And you're here. You asked to be here to share your story. It's not like we said, hey, Chris, you need you to come here. You asked, hey, look, I want to share this. So one other man, just one, doesn't have to go through the pain that I went through, and they can choose a different path, right? You gave 3 options, to choose to go through. And there is another side to this, guys. If you get a chance to talk to Chris and see all the cool things he's doing, a couple of weeks ago, you were going hiking with the kids. You were walking, and you still are. You walk the walk. And all of our advisors have been through the program. All of our advisors are here because they want to be here. They could be doing something else, guys. They want to be here in your corner for you. This is a movement. None of us are perfect. Certainly not me anyway. Far from it. But we're all a work in progress, and we're all here for each other, guys. So this is us extending a hand out to you. Chris, thank you so much for all that you do, man. Every time I get a chance to speak with you, I always leave a better man. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. This isn't a job to me. This is my mission and just what I'm here to do. And I'm just glad I found a way to do it where I can do it full time and not just have it be, it was just something I was doing on the side as I saw men around me failing at this. And so now to have the opportunity to work in the movement and help other men, like I just wake up every day and I don't know, I'm just so grateful that I get to save men the pain and suffering that I went through. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So yeah, here to help and happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, like I said, if you're listening to this, go back, go to thepowerfulman.com, click on the podcast button. You'll be able to see the YouTube or another video where you can watch this live, get a chance to really feel this out, what Chris is sharing with you. There's so many nuggets of wisdom in there, and just advice coming straight from the trenches from a man who really knows. I really invite you to do that again. And like I said, reach out to Chris. Chris is kind of our gatekeeper. We don't let everybody into the program, for a lot of reasons. But one is just, if it's not a great fit, he might say, hey, look, go do a couple more things, right? You're not there yet, right? Go back, get started. He's going to give you the best advice possible for your situation when you get a chance to have a conversation with him. And he's just a great guy. Bottom line, great people should know great people. I always say that. He's just a great guy and definitely somebody you want to talk to. So if you're a business leader, business owner, and you're ready to make that change, Chris is your guy. So gentlemen, that's a wrap for us here at The Powerful Man Show. As always, if you're new to our podcast, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus and grab the Reignite cheat sheet. It's going to be there for a while. Guys are getting great results. But guys, if you're any of those guys that have missed a call with Chris, boy, scramble, because he's a hard guy to get a hold of, but he always makes time. So make sure you get on that call. So Tim and Chris, thank you again, guys, for all that you do. And thanks for being here. For everybody else, we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.
See you guys.
Hey guys.